guys, and welcome to lesson 113 on adding and subtracting mixed measures and multiplying by powers of 10. So when we're adding and subtracting in mixed measures, which means that they have two different unit labels like feet and inches or hours and minutes, we may need to convert from one unit to another unit. We did this with just one type of problem. Now we're going to be looking at some different types of problems. So here's the first example, 1 hour and 40 minutes plus 1 hour and 50 minutes. First, I'm always going to start with my smaller unit. One way I could do it is I could make it all into minutes and then add them and then convert it back into hours and minutes, or I can do it this way as long as I keep track of when I get too many minutes. So here I've got 40 plus 50 minutes, which is 90 minutes. Right? But 90 minutes is bigger than the total amount of minutes in an hour. So how many minutes are in an hour? 60 minutes are in an hour. So I want to subtract out the 1 hour that's in here. So I'm going to now do minus 60, which is going to give me 30. And I'm going to take that 1 and I'm going to add it up here. I took out 30 minutes, and I took out 60 minutes, and I rewrote it as another hour that I'm going to add up here. So now I have 30 minutes, and then here I can add 1, 2, 3 hours. So my final answer is 3 hours and 30 minutes. Sometimes people add the 2 hours, you got 2 hours and 90 minutes, and then you rewrite the 90 as an hour and 30 minutes and you add in the hours. That way is not wrong. This way it just keeps it nice and concise for you. All right, here's a second example of the same exact type of thing. I want you to do this one on your own. Our next example is feet and inches. So this says 6 feet 5 inches minus 4 feet 8 inches. All right, well here I can't do 5 minus 8, so I'm going to need to steal a foot over here. Instead of 6 feet, I'm going to have 5 feet, and now I'm going to need to add how many inches is a foot? 12. I'm going to need to add 12 to this 5. So the 5 inches is going to become instead 12 plus 5, which is 17. So now I have 5 feet 17 inches minus 4 feet 8 inches. And from that, I can do 17 minus 8, which is 9. And then 5 minus 4, which is 1. So I have 1 foot 9 inches left. All right, try D on your own. This one is the same type of problem as this. And this leads us into the next part of the lesson. Multiplying by powers of 10 does not change the digits. It only changes the place value of the digits. What do I mean by that? Well, if I had 3.2, okay, right now, this 3 stands for 3 ones. If I multiply it by 10, my decimal is going to move over 1 spot. And now I have the number 32. And so my 3 and the 2, those numbers are still there, but now a 3 represents 3 tens, which is 30, and the 2 represents 2 ones. And this 2 only had represented a fraction of a whole of 2 tenths. So the actual numbers aren't changing, the numbers stay the same, but the place value changes, and that's why we can just slide our decimal. We're swooping to the right when we're multiplying by 10, and we're swooping to the left when we're dividing by 10. We change the place value by moving the decimal point in the number of places shown by the exponent. So an example, it says write this in standard notation. And here we have 1.2 times 10 to the third. 10 to the third is the same thing as 10 times 10 times 10, or 1,000. And we've talked about this before. There's how many zeros in 1,000? 3. And there's an exponent of 3 here. So when I want to write this in standard notation, It just means I'm going to swoop this decimal 3 times to the right. So if I rewrite it here so we can see what's happening, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, put in those zeros, and my new answer will be 1,200. Here's another example for you. I want you to try this one on your own. So you're going to swoop it how many times? Good. To the right, write what your answer is. The last part, powers of 10 can be written with words. Example, 1.3 million means 1.3 times a million. So when we say 1.3 million, we mean 1.3 times a million. Or we write a million as 10 to the 6th. 6 zeros, a little exponent of 6. So what about half of a billion? Well, half of a billion would be the same thing as 1/2 times a billion. And a billion is 9 zeros. And you don't have to actually write out those 9 zeros. You can just say 1/2 times 10 to the 9. Now the last part is to multiply it times 1/2. And for this, it's actually more useful to have it written out than in the notation form. So what we're going to do is we are going to multiply by 1/2, which is the same thing as dividing it by 2. So if I divide 1 billion by 2, I'm going to say 2 goes into 10 5 times. Here we go. And so my final answer is 500 million. All right, last question. I want you to do this one on your own. So you're going to take 1/4 of a million, which means 1/4 times a million. Figure out what that is. Remember that multiplying by any fraction that has a 1 on top is the same thing basically as dividing by the denominator, and bring in your answers tomorrow. Go ahead and get to work.